My dog's GPS collar started sending strange data, such as a location outside the house, even though he hadn't moved. In fact, the map showed impossible nighttime routes. One night, I followed the route and found something that shouldn't have been there. I live alone with my dog Rook in a small house near a wooded area that stays quiet at night. Every small sound stands out more than it should, and even though I got used to that silence over time, I never fully trusted it. Rook helped with that, since he reacts faster than I do, and usually notices things before I even realize something is off. I put a GPS collar on him a while ago, because the area has long, empty stretches, and losing him out there would mean I might never find him again. The collar tracks his location, heart rate, and sleep patterns, and until that night, it always worked exactly as expected. That day, nothing happened that gave me a reason to stay alert, since I followed the same routine as always before going to bed. I locked everything, checked on Rook, and went to sleep without thinking about anything unusual. The alert that woke me up later didn't feel important at first, but when I looked at the screen, I realized something was wrong in a way that didn't make sense. The notification showed that Rook's heart rate was extremely high, while the system marked him as asleep. And that contradiction was enough to make me sit up and check the hallway where he sleeps. He was there, lying still, breathing slow and calm, with no sign of stress or movement. When I looked back at the phone, the location marker showed him somewhere in the woods several hundred meters away, even though I could see him right in front of me. I checked again to make sure I wasn't misreading anything, but the position didn't change. I walked over to him and grabbed the collar, expecting to find something wrong, but it felt normal and showed no sign of damage. He looked at me for a moment, and then went back to sleep, while the app kept showing impossible data. I stayed awake, watching both Rook and the app, and after a few minutes, a movement path started forming on the map, beginning at my house and extending straight into the woods with a speed that didn't match any normal run. The line moved with direction, not randomly, like something knew exactly where it was going. I got closer to Rook and held the collar again, trying to feel anything unusual, but his body stayed relaxed and his breathing didn't change, even while the heart rate on the app kept spiking. The difference between what I saw and what the phone showed became harder to ignore with every update. I reset the collar and watched the app freeze for a moment, and when it updated again, the path disappeared and returned to the house, which made me think it was fixed. I went to bed, thinking it was just a glitch, a pretty strange one, but a glitch nonetheless. I even thought some prankster might have hacked it. I planned to go to the store the next day and exchange it, but the next day, Rook was gone. I checked every room, called his name, looked outside and searched around the yard, but there was no sign of him anywhere. The silence outside felt heavier than usual, and the absence of any movement made it worse. I opened the app again, and this time the location marker was active, showing him deep in the woods at the exact point where the path had ended during the night. The signal was stable, and it didn't jump or glitch. Before leaving, I stood at the door and looked toward the trees, and even though nothing was moving, the stillness made it harder to step outside. I didn't hear anything, but I knew I had to follow the signal. I grabbed my phone and went into the woods. The route took me off the main path and into dense areas where I had to push through branches and watch my footing, while checking the map to make sure I was going in the right direction. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became, and that silence made every step feel louder. After a long walk, I reached a clearing that didn't match anything I'd seen before, and I stopped at the edge while looking at something sitting low in the center. The shape didn't match any animal I knew, and the way it held itself made it hard to understand what I was looking at. I stayed still and focused on it, and after a few seconds, it raised its head in a slow, uneven motion that made its body shift in parts. That is when I saw the collar around its neck, and the blinking light confirmed it was the same one I had placed on Rook. I didn't move closer, since the body didn't match a dog in any way, and the legs bent at angles that didn't look stable. Its mouth stayed slightly open, showing teeth that didn't line up correctly, and its posture didn't look natural. I don't know what it was, but that creature had probably taken my rook. When it stood up, the movement came in separate steps, like each limb reacted at a different time, and then it turned toward me and took a slow step forward. I stepped back, and when it moved again, I turned and ran without checking the path. I could hear movement behind me as I pushed through the trees, and even though it didn't sound fast, it stayed present the entire time until I reached the outer edge of the woods. I got back to the house and locked everything, then checked the app again, and the location marker still showed the same position deep in the woods. I stayed inside and watched the screen for hours, waiting for it to move or disappear. It didn't. As the day went on, I kept checking outside, but I didn't see Rook anywhere, and there was no sign that he had come back. The house felt different without him, and the silence didn't feel normal anymore. When night came, I stayed awake again, and the app still showed the same location, fixed in the same spot. Nothing moved, and nothing changed, and that made it worse than before. At some point, I stopped checking the app and just sat there, listening to the quiet, waiting for something, anything to happen. In the morning, I got up and walked into the hallway, and Rook was there, sleeping in his bed like nothing had happened. He looked calm, and when he noticed me, he got up and walked over without any sign of stress or injury. I checked his neck, and the collar was there, secured and blinking like it always does. I pulled it off immediately and looked at it, trying to understand how it could be in two places at once. I opened the app, and the location showed him inside the house, with normal readings and no movement logs recorded. The path from the night before was gone, and there was nothing left on the screen that matched what I had seen. That night, I stayed awake again, and around the same time, Rook stood up and walked to the door without making a sound. He didn't bark or scratch, and he didn't look back at me. He just stood there, facing the dark outside. I didn't open the door, and I don't plan to, since I don't know what I saw in the woods, and I don't know if it ever left.